Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Deason, Tom Wells, and Alex King here. Today is Friday, December the 14th, 2018. It's 8 a.m. New York time, 5 a.m. Los Angeles time, 1 p.m. in London, and in Sydney, Australia, it's around 12 midnight. Thank you very much for joining us here. And no matter where you are in the world, we appreciate that you take the time out of your day or your night to join us and get your daily dose of happy, because that's what we're all about here. And I have to say, today is a day where I particularly appreciate a dose of happy, because as the three of us were talking just before the podcast, I got plenty of sleep last night. I can't quite understand what happened, but when I woke up, I was kind of woozy. The alarm actually woke me up, and when I rolled over after the alarm went off to see what time it was 20 minutes later. So I'm very disoriented this morning, and that's a good time to get that dose of happy, so you can just lift the vibration up. Because it's right, when I first woke up, I was like, oh, where am I? What time is it? What year is this? But it's all good. It's all good. And this is going to be another Law of Attraction Q&A. So if you are listening to the live stream of this on Facebook's Law of Attraction Changed My Life group, we invite you, please start typing questions into the chat area, because we're going to address whatever questions you guys bring up. That's what we do during a Q&A. And while we're waiting for the people to start typing in the questions, I'll say, first of all, Alex, good morning. How you doing? Good to see you again after 3 days later. Yeah.
I know, right?
you look like you're about as awake as I am actually this morning.
I am. I was like, wait, my alarm went off? I'm usually way up before my alarm.
Crazy. Yeah. I mean, we were just talking about, I think it was Tom who said, Tom, were you the one who said that this is because it was winter and we feel like we're in hibernation mode or something? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, yeah. So I think you're probably right, even though it's actually fall, but still, technically, it doesn't matter what it is. It feels like winter.
It feels like winter.
It really does.
Yeah, and it's we're almost at the shortest day of the year, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a weird time. I mean, I like the longest day of the year. I like lots of light and lots of sun and warmth. I'm really designed to live in the tropics.
Well, when you live in the southern hemisphere, that's what you've got, because right now they're approaching their longest day of the year, right? This is like their equivalent of summer, right? So, they're like, the sun is up at 4:50 or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's fun. It's a crazy place. So let's see what's going on. My brain is working very, very slowly. So if it seems like I'm stumbling at times, it's because I am.
Do you drink coffee, Walt?
I don't know. I usually don't regret that at all. I haven't had coffee on any kind of regular basis since I was in my 20s. But on a day like this, I kind of have to admit that I was in the coffee habit, if for no other reason than because you get that really lovely aroma whenever you're brewing the coffee, right? It just kind of permeates the house. That'll wake you up by itself. You don't even have to drink the coffee. You just have to smell the darn thing, and it'll just, oh, wow, it must be morning.
For me, that smell is bacon.
Bacon will do the same thing, yes.
Bacon and coffee together, yeah.
Bacon is actually, it does. Oh yeah. Well, bacon is actually my favorite way to help my wife perk up. If she's having a difficult time, any time during the day, I'll suggest, why don't we, make some bacon, bacon and eggs or something, and she'll say, oh, all right, and I'll put the bacon on, and she'll sit up and she'll perk up like, oh, that bacon smells so good.
Yes, bacon solves everything.
Yeah.
Now, is there a bacon?
Now we have a topic for our podcast.
That's right.
Because everyone will like our topic.
I have to ask though, is there a bacon food group? Because they say there's that chocolate is its own food group, because it has some protein, it has flour in it, it has egg in it, it has all these different ingredients, and so people justify it, by saying, well,
that's interesting.
You never heard that one? That chocolate was its own food group?
No. But if that was the case, then that means pizza is its own food group.
Yeah, right. And it could be.
Yeah. Should be at the top of the food group because it's got, you got your cheese, you got your dairy, you got your tomato, you got
a whole garden full of vegetables.
Yeah, exactly.
So now that we've rewritten all of the food groups, what used to be, let's see, what was it? It was vegetables and it was fruits, and then there was proteins and dairy. Yeah. Now it's chocolate and pizza and bacon.
Bacon.
And, yeah. Nutritionists all over the world are collapsing.
Yeah.
They are.
There's actually a restaurant in Denver that it's like it serves almost all those kind of comfort foods. That's the main thing it focuses on. So pizza, mac and cheese,
yes,
lots of whiskey. All this stuff that the young people just come in there and this is what I really want.
Oh my God, I need one of those over here because I love mac and cheese.
Oh.
You and my wife, what is it about mac and cheese? Here. I mean, I honestly don't understand that one. I remember having mac and cheese when I was a kid, but what is it?
Okay, no. You didn't have gourmet mac and cheese, though. You had Kraft out of the box. That's the difference.
Well, that doesn't even count as food. It's more like plastic, but...
That's what I'm saying. But that's why you're not enthusiastic about mac and cheese.
So what is gourmet mac and cheese like? I mean, what do you make that
gourmet
with?
Mac and cheese is
it's
like,
really
well,
different.
first you got your mac, but then you have like different types of cheeses. So sometimes there's Gruyere cheese. You can put brie in there. You can put, obviously
Swiss.
cheddar, Swiss, any kind of cheese. And sometimes there's bacon.
Okay, I'm sold.
Sometimes
right?
there's chocolate. No.
Sometimes there's lobster. Yeah. Lobster mac and cheese is my favorite. So
lobster mac and cheese. I have to admit, that's the use of lobster I had never heard of. That's brand new for me.
It's famous down over on the Cape. Let me tell you.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I didn't know
Almost
that.
every restaurant carries it.
Really? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't get over to the Cape often enough, but. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm completely derailed. What were we doing here? Oh, we're doing a podcast. That's right. Oh my goodness. So yes, getting back to the original message, if you have any questions about applying the law of attraction in your life, or maybe you're running into scenarios that are a little challenging or whatever, by all means, type your questions in if you're listening to the live stream in the Facebook group. And we usually get some pretty good questions each day, but those questions become the basis for what we're going to talk about. And we've had some, like we had one day this week where the questions were really, really philosophical nature, very theological, very spiritual in nature. We've had let's see, we had one day where a lot of the questions were about relationships and how the various issues people run into with relationships. So the themes have kind of gone all over the place. I remember about a week ago we had virtually all the questions were about attracting money. And that makes it fun too. But it really doesn't matter whether or not everybody's questions are the same. It's just we get the conversation going. We find out which way the trend is going. That becomes fun too.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's see. Anybody typing? No, it's quiet today. Wow. Never tried lobster. Deidre. Deidre's responding to Nasha. Never tried lobster. Yeah. Well, I can understand because Nasha's from Pakistan. Yeah. Yeah, she's not in the right kind of the world.
That's something you got to do in life.
Lobster. Yeah. Well, you have to live near cold water.
That's true.
Because she lives in more of a tropical type climate, and you're not going to find a whole lot of lobster there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's delicious. It is totally delicious. So let's see. Well, since there are no questions coming, maybe we can just start addressing stuff going on in our lives that's kind of interesting, which is going to be kind of hard for us to do because none of us are particularly awake this morning. But perhaps we...
I'm awake. I'm up now.
Oh, you are? You woke up?
Awake.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Tom's
I wake up like that. It's not an issue.
and Tom actually is more of an excuse because he's 2 hours behind us, so he should be even more sleepy than we are. But,
right.
Hey, I give you credit, Tom. You're doing good.
I've been working on getting up early lately because I've got a project I'm working on. So I like working in the morning.
Okay.
It's a new routine I'm trying anyway.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, good for you.
Sleeping less and getting up early, and then I take a nap during the day.
Well,
okay.
You gotta get your sleep in.
Yeah, that's good.
It's supposed to be a great way to connect with your your subconscious or the dream realm is if you get up earlier, and then take a nap later on. And anyway, I'm giving it a try.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Seems to be pretty cool.
Is it working? I mean, you said you're doing it because you're working on a project. So is it like stimulating the creative juices to be up early each day?
I think it does. It really does, because I'm sitting there, like at 5 a.m. and working on my stuff, and I feel like, I don't know, I just feel focused. I don't know. It's just different. I think I don't feel drawn to go to the kitchen and snack and things like that. I just feel focused. Mm-hmm. I just stay in one place and work. And it feels like I'm also, there is some access to something more from the unconscious. I feel like it's coming through at that time.
Wow.
So I'm just beginning to experiment with it. But yeah, I read a whole bunch about it in the book by Seth,
Oh, okay.
Seth, who were these entities like Abraham that were channeled back in the 70s by Jane Roberts. And they talk a lot about that, the power of sleeping less and being up during those wee hours of the morning, that how much you will plug into your dream time while you're awake. In other words, you don't, they say you lose so much sleeping that humans right now don't understand how much of their essence as human beings they lose by sleeping. They said if you would understand to sleep only 4 or 5 or 6 hours and then take a nap later, you would start to find out the stuff that you're denying yourself by being asleep because you can't remember your dreams. And they said, but that's all kinds of wonderful information is coming to you from that whole other realm, and that we're actually meant to live much more in that realm than we do. But we've moved away from that as human beings. We think we're supposed to have these really long blocks of sleep and these really long blocks of being awake. They said that's not how you're designed. And so I'm trying that out. I'm trying to see, okay, what's it like if I get up after 4 hours? So I've done that a number of times in the last couple of weeks, and I really like it. It's fascinating because I'm really trying to learn from my dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it makes me wonder, is there something wrong with me? Because I do feel better whenever I sleep a longer night. Well, yeah, we know there's something wrong with me. There always has been. But
that wasn't the question.
That's a given. I mean,
I'm kidding.
But beyond that, I don't like to nap. Cindy and I have talked about this, Cindy Chavez, because neither one of us are really nappers. And the reason is when I wake up from a nap, I feel like I feel this morning. Normally, I don't feel like this in the morning. Normally I'm just alert and alive and ready to go. This morning, I'm just feeling groggy and kind of weighed down and so forth. And that's exactly how I feel after a nap. So the prospect of me going to sleep, getting what seems like not enough sleep so that I can take a nap later on that I'm going to wake up groggy from, this is not an enticing prospect for me. This doesn't feel good. So I'm wondering, this is what I'm supposed to do?
You got to get out of that mentality that it's not enough sleep.
I guess.
Because that's what happened to me. Because with my insomnia, I just switched over to I'm a napper. I don't sleep. I just nap.
Wow.
Yeah. And they say most animals, this is what Seth was saying, most animals have that natural rhythm, and they live, and so they take maximum advantage of what life has to offer them in terms of biological rhythms by following, sleeping when they want to sleep,
right,
and waking when they want to be awake. So there's, I don't know, it's something to play with maybe, but if it's too hard, it's too hard,
I think it's interesting because it's right in tune with what Abraham tells us. I mean, Abraham has actually said point blank, they think that we should be sleeping more than 2 hours a night.
2?
2.
Wow.
That's what I do.
That's what you do.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you nap a lot?
I don't nap a lot. That's the thing. I call what I do napping because it's only 2 hours. So.
But you seem so alert and chipper. Did you only sleep 2 hours last night?
Yeah.
Wow.
What do you do the rest of the night?
Less than that because I went to bed at 6 a.m. So I got up at 7:30.
Wow. Dang, girl.
How do you do that?
How you do that?
I just got used to it. It's just at first it was really hard and it was debilitating. Like I was going crazy. I didn't know what was going on. And then eventually I was just like, I don't sleep, so I'm over it. Tired of trying.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're right in tune with all these disembodied beings who are speaking to us, who say that you guys are, don't need all that sleep.
That's why they call us the sleepless elite.
Ah.
Maybe we should be asking you, Alex, who are you receiving? Because you're clearly going with their guidance.
I don't know. There's a lot of people up there.
There's a lot of people up there. It's a little crowded, huh?
It's a little crowded.
Well, Alex, do you have psychic experiences?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're plugged into that other realm?
Partially.
Partially. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You're working on it?
Yeah.
we have our first question from Nasha, who's one of our regular listeners. She says, could you elaborate more on waking up early? That's an interesting question. I like that. I'm not sure you're even qualified to answer that, Alex.
I feel like when Nasha asks questions, I'm just like, just do it. Like, what's the problem?
Well, I'm not even sure you're qualified to answer the question because you're already awake.
Oh,
you've been awake all night.
Exactly. Yeah. But no, seriously, just set your alarm and just, slowly. I mean, you could transition yourself into awake, like by setting like 5-minute alarms and then fully waking up and then, starting your day. But just do it earlier and earlier as the weeks go by.
Yeah, sleep during the time period that you feel most inclined to sleep, but then, try to wake up after, say, 4 or 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah.
And that's what Seth recommends, is that, 4, 5, 6, or 7 hours. I mean, 7 seems like a lot. Excuse me. But I've been trying 4 and 5. And 4 seems difficult right now, but 5, it's a lot more doable. And then the little nap, if I really feel like I want it. Sometimes I'm wiped out, and there's no way I'm sleeping 4 hours. I end up sleeping 8 hours. I used to always sleep 8 or 9, but I like to play with the idea of waking up and being receptive. I love what they said about the fact that you're literally plugging into the dream time, but you're awake, so you get the value of the unconscious while you're conscious. I'm really excited to see what does that mean. I'm sure that I kind of know what that means, but I'm experimenting.
Yeah.
What have you found out so far?
It's an interesting concept.
What have I found out?
Yeah, I mean,
well,
you've been experimenting for some time.
I found out that there's something that always wakes me up anyway, almost always around 4 a.m. And when I wake up, usually I got to pee or something, but then almost invariably, I have a psychic experience in the sense that I feel like a bunch of downloads are happening of wisdom about my life is coming to me at that time. So I often will just sort of very casually lay in bed and check out what shows up, because this stuff just seems to come to me, like realizations about my life and about things I'm doing, and sometimes like really mind-blowing, like, oh my God, I see all these connections, to things like, oh yeah, I had that conversation with that person and that person and that person that was all about this one subject that I've been in denial of. And then I start seeing it, and I get a light shined on it.
Of course.
And so I get awakened. So I figured if I write my material from my workshops during that time period, so that's what I'm doing now. I'm writing the material for my workshops during the time of 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. And I've noticed that I think I'm particularly keenly tuned to my inner wisdom at that time, to being receptive to messages that might come to me. So, and I meditate during that time too, which is a really cool thing to do during that time period of 4 to 7.
Nasha
take an hour and meditate.
Nasha is elaborating on her questions because she's also asking. She says, I'm sleepless as well. She hasn't slept yet, but she takes a sleeping aid because she can't sleep without medicine. And she wants to know, you have the same situation, right, Alex?
Yeah. I take many sleep aids.
Many sleep aids, wow. Okay. Hopefully not
many
at the same time.
Wow.
But she also wants to know how it affects dream time. She says the dream time... I think she means it comes when you're awake. Could you please elaborate on this about dreams? Because Tom, you actually mentioned something about dreaming, and I guess what Seth had to say about taking advantage of dreaming. But talk about that. What's that about?
Well, in my opinion, dreams are who we really are. They are. There's a lot of indigenous cultures who believe that when you're that we're dreaming 24/7, but this is what we call our waking dream right now. But that connection to all those things that show up in dreams, the archetypes, the different, amazing things that happen in dreams are our real nature. That's who we really are. And so if we sleep less, we plug in more to that realm while we're awake. It's always there. It's never not there. And lately I've started to, when I am asleep, before I go to sleep, I ask for remembering my dreams. And I keep a journal. I keep a journal next to my bed with a pen. Yeah. And I have the whole journal right here, and I write almost one dream a night in this, that comes, and then I go through and read them, and I look for things that pop out at me, trends and things like that. And so many times the dreams are incredibly showing me exactly what's going on in my life. I'm seeing a therapist right now, and every week I come to her with another dream, and we go deep into what it is I'm learning from that dream. And they're just unfolding, this whole way of understanding who I am and what I'm on this planet to do. And I love that sense, that I'm really starting to understand how life is talking to me in all these different ways.
So what kinds of messages have you gotten? You said you're starting to see patterns. So what kinds of insights have you gotten out of it?
Well, like I've been looking at creating this group coaching workshop, and in looking at that, I'm trying to create the modules for the workshop. And like, for example, the other night, my dream was about being in this facility out in the desert, and this group of people had told me that I wasn't ready yet to be initiated into their group, and they sent me to this bunkhouse. And I get in the bunkhouse, and there's all these little projects that I'm supposed to do. And as I do each project and complete it, I realize that I have all these abilities on each project that I didn't know I had. And then even in the dream, I started realizing, these are the modules of my workshop. And it's showing me that the doubt that I have in myself is unwarranted, and that I need to understand that I have the natural ability to create the things that I want to create. So it gave me this whole sense of inner confidence. And I also realized that the sense of having to please these people that were trying to initiate me into their group was not something that really mattered that much. I don't have to please people in my workshops. I just have to do the thing that feels creative to me. So I got this whole message about the way I was looking at doing my creative work. And I felt really grateful about that. Or the other night I had a dream about my relationships to my family and friends, and realizing that I didn't have to struggle to keep my relationships intact. The dream showed me that I could have more of a digital relationship with my friends. I could be more trusting of the relationship I have with them, instead of trying as hard as I try to keep my friendships alive. And these come in beautiful symbolic ways, that show me a lot more than just that. They're dreams. You can go into them again and again. You can even go back and continue a dream just by willing to do so. You can go talk to characters from your dreams and ask them, why are you here in my dream? What is it that you're trying to tell me? There's amazing things you can do with dreams. There's an institute here in Colorado. I did a 12-day vision quest with them, and their whole thing is dreams. And they can take one dream and work on it for 12 days. One person's dream, the whole group can work on it and go into that dream and talk to different characters, and the whole group will learn things in a group conscious field. So they're fascinating ways to work with who you are and what you're here to do, and how you relate to other people, everything.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's interesting. I mean, you're clearly getting a lot out of it. A couple of questions have come up here. Deidre's asking for a little bit more information about Seth. She wants to find some more information about Seth, and obviously the easy thing to look for is Seth Speaks, because that's usually in most cases, that's the titles of the books. But can you talk a little bit more about who Seth is, Tom? Give them a little more clear idea.
Well, Seth is something like Abraham, if you know who Abraham is, but they're apparently entities, and it's unknown from when we're in this realm, in this 3D realm, what they mean by its entities that exist in the unseen realm. But they spoke in the 70s through this woman, Jane Roberts, who lived back east somewhere. And she just would channel the words of these entities that call themselves Seth, would speak through her about understandings about life coming from the unseen realm that were full of wisdom and full of insight, very interesting stuff. And so there was a number of books that were dictated by Seth through Jane Roberts, and she speaks in a really dramatic voice, when she channels Seth. It's like, we think that it's like this.
I am preaching to you.
Yeah. But I love the content of it. I don't like listening to her do it, but some of the stuff you can find on YouTube, it's not just her speaking. If you can stand to listen to her speaking, it's the same stuff. But I like reading it too. So I ordered a book. I just have one of them. There's a number of Seth Speaks books that address different topics, but they're very lengthy and very in-depth. It's good stuff. I like it. But it's a little, as Abraham would say, it was for its time. So it's like Abraham says, the message that we're plugging into from the unseen realm is actually a constantly morphing thing that really only exists in this time and space. Right here and right now. But I mean, I get a lot going back and reading this old stuff, just like you could go back and read Lao Tzu, or you could go back and read, the teachings of Buddha or the teachings of Jesus and still get a lot out of it. But Abraham's always making the point that, but that's yesterday's news. Yeah. And, so what's really happening that matters the most to us right here and right now is what we're channeling right here and right now. So this podcast, is greater than the works of Buddha and Jesus and everyone.
I remember boy, are we important, I tell you.
Are we self-absorbed?
Watch my head just get larger and larger. But
no, there is such a thing as a group field of consciousness that we're plugging into right now. And all of our listeners and everyone. So if we, really open up to that, there's a lot of wisdom right here, right now, that is exactly what we need to be hearing.
And that is a cool concept. I remember I think it was last spring or early summer, Tom, you and I tried to do a few episodes on some of the Seth stuff, and it was so deep. I mean, you said it was deep. You underestimated it when you said it was deep. It was like fathoms deep. And trying
it was like molasses.
Trying to get through it. It really was.
Trying to walk through molasses.
Oh my goodness!
But it was good. But I tired of it quickly because of that. It was so thick. Yeah. But it's so funny, Walt, because I went back and was reading it. I had what I thought was a possible heart attack happening on Saturday. So I went and checked myself into the emergency room. And while I was there for 5 hours, all I took with me was the Seth book. And it turned out they couldn't find anything wrong with me, but I was having this really intense chest pain that was just killing me. So I thought, well, that's a good reason to go to the emergency room, and I didn't want to because it cost $7,000, and I felt like, hopefully insurance will cover it. But the whole time I was there, hooked up to all the monitors, I was just reading Seth. And it was fantastic. It was like, and they were even talking all about the medical profession while I was there. I just happened to be reading this huge section where they were, showing you what your relationship was to the medical profession. And it was amazing that it was exactly, everything I read was exactly what I needed during those 5 hours. It was just, and it wasn't thick at all. It wasn't deep. It wasn't like walking through molasses. It was just clear, beautiful, channeling directly to me. So
do you think that was because
you read more?
Is that because you were in that environment? You were already in a mindset of needing medical care. Did that make it clearer, do you think?
I think no. I just think that life is always giving us exactly what we need if we're open to it.
Okay.
And it just happened to be that's exactly what I need. I had the intuition to take that book with me, which I hadn't read since we were reading it on the podcast. Okay. So it just was my intuition, and it turned out to be the perfect input I needed during that time period.
Well, that ties into a question that Nasha asked, because she says, and I think she was actually referring to the dream and sleep cycle but it also applies here too. She says, in either of these realms, are we more receptive to the law of attraction in these cases? In other words, the way she says it is, are we more receptive as to the law of attraction, as in manifesting it well? So in other words, when we're in sleep cycles that are short sleep cycles, is that contributing to our ability to manifest, do you think? And similarly, when we're dealing with stuff where the universe gave us things that were at the right time and place, like you just described, is that something that's contributing to helping us manifest better as well?
Alex, you want to answer that?
I think you're manifesting 24/7 whether you want to or not. So I would say yeah.
So it doesn't actually do anything to make it even more enhanced. It's just that's like, this is normal. This is 24 hours a day. So we just, this is one more example of how we're doing it.
Well, I think that's the thing that. Oh, go ahead, Alex.
I was going to say, I could see how you would think that, in the dream state, you're more concentrated on what you want. But I feel like you're in your dream state, you're more concentrated on what you need. So it's not so much as, I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna dream about the perfect guy that I want. It's probably gonna be a dream about, I don't know, what you want for breakfast, because that's what your body needs.
Okay. What were you going to say, Tom?
Well, the reason I'm doing all this stuff I'm doing with only sleeping 4 or 5 hours and then trying to tap into my unconscious during my waking stuff, and why I write my dreams down, is because I really believe that I'm here to listen to what I call my soul, and that we all have something that's called a soul. It's like it's our own inner guide, and I can't even separate it from my other guides that might exist in the unseen realm, nor from you guys actually. But what is my soul? Well, I mean, we're all connected as
yeah.
We're all connected to the infinite consciousness, and we're all just downloading it all the time. The question is whether or not we recognize it and really listen carefully, and we're actually attentive. So I decided I want my whole life now to be guided by the thing that I call my soul, and I realized that plugging into the dream time, into my dreams, and that when the veils are thinner between this realm and the fifth dimension and the fourth dimension, that then I can plug in more to what I'm actually about as an infinite being, and that's all that matters to me. I just want to know, what is my infinite self trying to do here in this realm? Mm-hmm. So the work I want to do, the relationships I want to have, everything that I think about myself, I want all that to be coming from my soul's agenda, which I believe is really full of wisdom. So that's why I want to plug in that way,
Okay, that's good. Nasha's really coming with the questions today, so I'm going to see if I can combine a few of them together and give us something to talk about. First of all, she was asking about the time duration for sleeping, because we have mentioned a few different ones. I mean, Abraham says like a couple hours. Tom, you've been saying like 4 to 5 hours. Alex, she if she sleeps at all, it's like an hour to an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So
and that she has to do with sleeping aids.
Yep.
That's tough.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
You don't even need to sleep, do you? It's like,
I don't.
Wow. That's amazing.
So
yeah.
What's the recommended amount of sleep time then? I mean, Alex, what would you recommend to somebody? How much sleep do you think the average person should get?
Well, I say a lot of the sleepless elite people like me function on under 4 hours. I mean, I don't recommend it for everybody, but like a lot of smart and successful people sleep less than 4 hours a day. Like Martha Stewart is famous for sleeping like 3 hours a day. I can't remember who else I can think of, but yeah, I do know a lot of smart and successful people. P. Diddy is another one who sleeps less than a couple hours a day.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
It's really interesting, because I remember my sister went through something where she was sleepless for long periods of time, and she was becoming psychotic because of it. I mean, literally, it was affecting
in the
her ability
beginning,
to
you
function.
can, yeah.
Which is kind of a scary
You
prospect.
get used to it.
Mm-hmm.
And
But it's it's the way you interpret things. Like your body just doesn't know how to handle all the information that's coming in.
which you know a lot about it because you have Asperger's. I mean, you're dealing with that issue all the time.
All the time, 24/7.
Yeah.
What does that mean? That mean you're downloading a lot of information all the time, or?
Well, I don't know how to process what I download because my brain doesn't have the tools.
So what kind of stuff do you get?
I mean, simple things like people's facial expressions. Okay, for instance, me and my therapist were talking yesterday about how to end a conversation. I don't understand how to end a conversation. Like it just doesn't, I don't know when the conversation ends or when it's my turn to just walk away or stop talking or whether it be via text or via, face to face. I just don't know how to do that.
See, that's the advantage of doing a podcast, Alex. When you do a podcast, if you have it as a 1 hour podcast, you have a time limit. So now you know when to end it. It's very simple.
It's like, okay, the hour's up. I gotta go. Yeah, that time constructs work for me.
I can understand that. I mean, I would even argue many times conversations don't end. They just get continued.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that happens on Facebook all the time. People having conversations. Check back in to see what happened with the conversation I was last having 5 hours ago. It's the endless conversation.
Yeah.
Or they also have the thing, and I've never really explored the feature very much, but Facebook has that feature where you basically are telling your story, and your story is endless. Every time that you add to it, it just keeps getting longer and longer and longer. So when does the story end? Well, when you stop breathing. I mean, it just goes on and on, and even then, apparently, it doesn't stop. So I can understand where your confusion would come in.
So many different ways to look at everything, right? I mean, you could write something from a different perspective. They say that's true of a dream, that you can approach dreams just from endless variety of ways that you can get value out of a dream. I worked with a shaman in New Mexico. He used for 12 days. He used 4 different myths, the really ancient myths. One Native American, because he was Native American, and then several from ancient Europe. And he did that for 12 days, lecturing 5 or 6 hours a day on just these 4 myths, and never ended the ways he could interpret those myths and see, like amazing insights that were mind blowing. Because he was a genius, but I'm sure he became a genius from spending a lot of time in that other realm.
Yeah. Yeah.
As shamans tend to do, they spend a lot of time in the dream. That's what a shaman does. He goes into the dream time and brings back wisdom for his people that he's working with.
And by the way, we are getting other people in the chat here talking about how they have short sleep periods. And I think it was, yeah. I think it was
in Alex's club.
Yep.
Deidre was saying that I think we should sleep whatever amount we need to still feel healthy, right? And I think that's essentially true, really.
That's the way I look at it. Yeah. You got to feel healthy.
Yeah. So, I mean, lately, I've been in the long sleep club for like the last couple months, much to my surprise, actually, because historically, over the last 20 years or so, I was pretty much like 5-6 hours of sleep. Now I'm getting like 8 to 9, and I wake up and I say, it's the same thing every morning. Like, what happened? Where did the night go? So yeah, I definitely I do have the alarm set for doing the morning podcast because I want to make sure I never miss that. But normally I'm not even an alarm person, so I'm just going with whatever I need to do. And for the longest time, I was waking up well before the alarm, so I never even heard the alarm. I just was waking up when I needed to wake up. Actually, waking up to an alarm is kind of a different thing for me these days. I haven't done that since I was in my 20s.
Yeah, same thing for me. Yeah.
I don't like alarms at all.
Yeah, I try to avoid them.
But sometimes you have to use one.
Yeah. You do what you have to do. That's why I use I use the alarm in my iPhone, and I use the sound setting called chimes. So it's like having little wind chimes in the background. Very gentle way to wake me up.
Yeah,
I can handle that.
That's better.
Yeah. And even with that,
mine's opposite. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, even with that, when the chimes go off, there's a little tinkling sound. I'm instantly awake and reach over. I gotta turn that off. So,
yeah, my alarm's the opposite. I have a hip hop song going on, so it's not jarring though. So it's like,
well, you don't go to sleep. I'm not surprised.
Well, I have the alarm set for the 8 a.m. podcast because otherwise I'll be like, what was I going to do this morning? Oh no, it's 8:30.
Well, that's
so
funny.
I have to have it set for that. So I have it set for 7:30, but I have it set so like that it starts off at a low volume and then slowly increases.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's good. Nasha, I was also asking, does antidepressant block manifesting our stuff later? Since I'm kind of numb most of the time, and is Prozac dangerous? Now, we're not medical people, Nasha, so that's the thing I have to say first and foremost. So we can't give you a medical opinion, but we can give you a non-medical opinion. We have lots of those. So, I mean, Alex, you're probably the one who's most familiar with medications because you talked about how you're on a number of them that you deal with yourself.
Yeah.
What's your experience? I mean, do you think that antidepressants actually can reduce our ability to manifest, for instance?
I think so. Yeah, definitely.
Why is that?
Because when you're totally numb, like it keeps you from feeling depressed, but it also keeps you from feeling truly joyful. Mm-hmm. So you're numb to all feelings because they just don't want you to, have any feelings at all. Mm-hmm. So there's no way to manifest good or bad because you're not feeling anything.
But as you pointed out, we're manifesting 24/7. So...
I mean, yeah, that's true. But I mean, like actually not physically manifesting, but like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Consciously?
Actively manifesting, it's harder to do when on medications for depression and stuff like that because you're numb.
What Abraham calls deliberate creation.
Yeah.
Seth addresses it in their books. They say that medications are definitely can put a lid on and a damper on your ability to receive from the dream realm. To receive your soul's messages because you're just, I guess, like what Alex said, you just that part of you is kind of numbed.
Yeah.
And then Nasha also has a really, really basic question, and we're going to get some really varied answers here, I'm sure. What time? Well, she was asking. Actually, she was listening to one of the other listeners, I think. Well, I don't know. She's asking, what time do you go to sleep?
What time do I go to sleep? I go to sleep whenever I can get to sleep. If I don't fall asleep by 2:30 a.m., I give up. And then, and then I have a morning schedule. So like my one of my best friends moved to Japan. So she's 13 hours. Well, now, so with daylight savings, 14 hours ahead of me. So the only time we can talk is 5 a.m. my time.
Ah.
So yeah. So at 5 a.m. I'm on the phone for about an hour. And then 6 o'clock, I might fall asleep or I might just get up for the day.
Wow.
So once again, there appears to be no rules. I mean, everybody.
There's no rules. There's no rules.
Well, there is recommendations out there that I've noticed.
Get in where you fit in.
What's that?
Get in where you fit in.
Get in where you fit in. I'm working with a coach now who's a body worker who's highly respected for her work, and she said she's recommending to our class right now that we go to sleep by 10 p.m. And because the sleep that you get before midnight is supposed to be so much more rejuvenating for your being than the sleep if you go to sleep after midnight. So that extra time from 10 until midnight is particularly good according to her. And so I've been trying to go to bed by 10 a.m. I usually get to sleep about 10:30 or 11. So I get 1 hour before midnight, and then I get about 3 or 4 hours, get up at about 4 or 5 a.m. And I found that's a really good rhythm for me. But sometimes I'm so wiped out, like you said, Walt, I have to sleep 7, 8, or 9 hours. I have to. It's just my body's telling me to. So I just listen to what my body says. But I'm developing this new pattern of sleeping less and then doing the snap during the day just to see, like I said, what'll happen.
Well, that's why I keep wondering and thinking about why it is people have different numbers of hours that they sleep and apparently widely divergent. I mean, we have on the one hand, Alex sleeping an hour, and then you have me sleeping 9 to 10 hours some nights. And and it's just like, whoa, huge range there. Well, not only that, I mean, I talked about briefly how my sister was actually psychotic because she was getting so little sleep at one point in her life. And with medication, she was able to get that ironed out. But I remember one time, now this is a while ago, this was back just after Louise and I married. We actually did our honeymoon in 2 parts. In the second part, we went to Barbados. This was in 2000. And the trip to Barbados, we had a very early flight. I think it was a 6 a.m. flight. And, you know, anyone who has ever gone through an airport knows if you're going to leave at 6 a.m., it basically means you want to arrive at like 4 or 5 or something like that.
Right.
Which means you're getting up at 3, you know. And you know, so we got up at like 3 o'clock. And the worst part was we had set the alarm, but we were so afraid we were going to miss the alarm that we didn't even sleep well. You know, so I think we each got like an hour to 2 hours worth of sleep. We got up, we went to the airport, got onto the plane and so forth. And, actually, before we got onto the plane, we found that our connecting flight had been canceled. And so they had to reschedule us on another flight. They said, well, you got 2 options. You can either take this first flight in about 4 or 5 hours, or you can take a flight now to Miami, and then you'll have like an 8-hour layover, and then you'll fly on to Barbados from there. And my wife to this day regrets the fact that she said, I want to go. Let's just go to Miami. What we should have done is turned around and gone back home, taken a nap, been totally refreshed, and we'd been fine. Instead, we got on the plane, flew to Miami, and arrived in Miami International Airport. And, of course, now we have this 8-hour layover. We go to the, what do they call it, the pilot's lounge. There's like a lounge that pilots like to frequent. And, in fact, she has a family member who was a pilot for many, many years and recommended that if you're ever stuck in an airport for whatever reason, go to this particular, I think they call it the Sky Lounge, because they have the most comfortable chairs, you know. So we went to the Sky Lounge. Now, I am 6 foot 8 inches tall, right? So I'm pretty tall, like 203 centimeters. And very, very tall. And here I am so tired, I'm so sleep deprived. I got into one of these little chairs, very comfortable chairs, but they're for sitting in. And I curled up as small as I could get in one of these chairs. And I put my head down on it, and I slept for about 3 or 4 hours. My wife is absolutely astonished that I was able to do that. It was the most uncomfortable sleep that I could possibly get. But I had no choice. It was either that or I was going to have to just get down on the cement floor and fall asleep on the floor because I was so wiped out. You know?
Yeah.
So I think about that experience and I say to myself, what happens if you're doing a short sleep schedule and you really need to have more than that? I mean, I think you can actually do yourself some damage doing that. My sister experienced that for sure. And yet, Alex, you talk about how you're, I mean, it's clear every time that we talk to you, you're fine. I mean, you're a little bit crazy at times, but you're fine.
Yeah, but back in the beginning, when I first started having trouble sleeping, I was definitely going through some psychosis.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How did that manifest? What, I mean, like, were you going around and screaming at people or something? Or, you know, what was it?
Oh, I was very irritable. And then I would switch from not sleeping to, like, sleeping for days.
Really?
And then, yeah, I would go from, like, 3 days of not sleeping to passing out for, like, 2 days. And then it was insane.
Wow. Sleep is, I mean, well, the other thing I think about too, I mean, Tom, you're talking about how you keep your sleep journal and you're writing down dreams from every single night, which takes some time to do, by the way. And I'm sure you ran into this too, because the first few nights you try to do it and you can't remember any dreams, and you have to kind of stick with it for a while before you start remembering them, and then you can write them down. But that process of writing your dreams in order to get messages out of them and get information out of them, it almost kind of flies in the face of what Abraham talks about, because Abraham talks about the dream cycle being just you kind of flushing out the stuff you don't need anymore. And yet you have Seth
Yeah.
saying, well, this is where you're going to get all your great information. So that's also really confusing. Like, we're getting conflicting messages. Which is it? Is this important stuff, or is this the garbage that we have to take out?
Yeah. I don't know why I don't agree with the Abraham stuff, because I've studied dreams so much and I've had so much amazing experience with them. And right now it's literally changing my life every week. I mean, I'm literally changing day by day from the dreams that are happening, and getting wonderful insights. So I don't know why they say, why they put down dreams so much. And I know that it's what Abraham says is a reflection, I think, of what Esther feels about things. So it's Abraham's channeling through Esther, and Esther, I think, is a very strong-willed personality. I don't think she believes that way about dreams.
Well, it could be.
So it comes through that way. And maybe also they're speaking to people who need to hear what they're saying at the time. And so.
Well, they also say something else fascinating. They say that when you're asleep, you're not manifesting because you're not consciously aware. That the only time that you can be truly manifesting is when you're consciously aware. And they don't they don't clarify whether they mean deliberate creation or just default creation. They're simply saying that because you're not conscious, your thought process isn't going, so you can't actually manifest anything. But there are others who say exactly the opposite. Once again.
Yeah, because how is your thought process stopped if you're dreaming?
And I don't know. I don't even understand what a dream is. I mean, I took a course in sleep and dreams when I was in college, and the course taught that if you have less than 4 hours sleep, you're going to be psychotic. Clearly, you're not psychotic, Alex. You're a little crazy, but you're not psychotic. So,
you keep saying that, Paul.
Well, I say it in an endearing way because I love her for her craziness. I mean, that's part of what you have to be in order to be a comedian.
That was crazy, Alex? I've never heard you say anything.
You hear it all the time. Anything that she says is funny is crazy. I mean, we use the word crazy in a wide variety of ways.
Crazy good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
crazy good.
Yeah.
Crazy good. That's crazy good.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. But my point is, I can take everything that I was taught in that sleep course. And admittedly, this was, 40 years ago, something like that. And I can just throw it out the window. Because when I compare it to what I hear...
changed in 40 years.
Well, the sleep hasn't changed that much, has it? I mean, it's sleep.
Apparently it has.
So everybody back in 1979, 1980 needed to have 4 hours sleep, but then that changed because Congress passed a law or something? I don't know.
You know what happens to a lot of elderly is that they sleep less and less as they get older.
Yeah, that's true.
That's very common.
Yeah.
And according to the stuff that I've been hearing, in fact, I think Seth talked about that. They said it's a sign of they're getting ready to move into that realm where sleep isn't even an issue. Because when you leave your body, sleep is no longer, sleep is about being here in a body. Duh.
Right.
But and there is something about its rejuvenating properties, obviously, but there's something else going on that's much more significant to who we are and to our soul than just rejuvenating our body.
I'm looking to see if there are any questions coming in. Lots of conversation, which is, I'm loving this. Not only do we converse here on the podcast, but the listeners who are listening to the live stream are conversing too in the chat. So there's like these multiple conversations going on all around the same topic. It's really, really cool.
Get the conversation
awesome.
going. That's great.
Absolutely. I'm not seeing any real questions coming in here, but let's see. Now she just punched. Now it's just more interesting conversation about. Now she's talking about the stuff that she sees in her dreams.
I was going to say what cool. I see in my dreams. In the few hours that I get, it's either great ideas like I have in the shower, or it's visits from dead relatives.
Really?
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
No, I've had I've had that. Your ancestors. And it freaked the heck out of me because I didn't have it as a dream so much. Well, I did have that. I had a dream where I met my father shortly after he passed. But I did have one instance, and to this day I'm really not sure who and or what it was, but in the middle of the night, I'm going to say 2 or 3 in the morning, something like that. I was in that halfway sleep, like first level of dream sleep, not quite actually dreaming, but lightly asleep, that kind of thing. And all of a sudden, I had this impression of this face coming right into my face. and saying very loudly, "Hello," and I bolted sitting up, like, what the hell was that? And my wife was fast asleep. She says, "What? What?" I said it again. "What the hell was that?"
Wow.
And she says, "What the hell was what?" And I said, "There." And I described what had happened. And to this day, we really have no idea. Was it a relative? Was it somebody I knew? I mean, we kind of wondered, maybe it was somebody who was non-physical, who was trying to learn how to lower their vibration to communicate with us in the physical, which would suggest like a relative or somebody I knew, and just hadn't really learned to do it very well yet. Because it freaked me out like crazy.
Totally possible.
To this day, I have no idea what that was.
You know, I had a friend who went to Africa, and he was going there to do work with a shaman, and he said that in these little villages in Africa that he would go to, people, they greet each other, and all the ancestors that come with each person are literally there, like, and they can see them. A lot of African people can see their other ancestors, and they can tell you when you walk up to them what the ancestors want, are trying to tell you, because they're attached to you all the time. And that's a huge part of doing dream work, is to get in touch with your ancestors, because you need to be in touch with your ancestors. They of course, I only ask for the ancestors that have good messages.
Well, I was just going to say, there are some
I don't want
people...
the ones that were the murderers and the rapists. And, well, I'm sure they have a message too that could be helpful, but I really, I only ask. I don't want to be freaked out and spooked, like you were saying, Walt. I want the ones that have beautiful messages that'll help me in my life, But apparently, they're right there, and they want to help us a lot, and we have to ask them. We have to invite them to help us. So.
Yeah,
they have a lot of wisdom.
There are a lot of people who would say, "I don't want Uncle Fester to contact me. I didn't like him when he was alive. I don't want him when he's dead. Forget it. He's out of here."
That's how I feel. I'm like, "Grandma, please go.
You go away, right?"
Have you had that problem, Alex? Do you have a grandma that bothers you? Yeah.
Yes. My grandmother, who passed last year or 2 years ago, she always in my dreams, always. Really? And I'm like, just go be on the other side and do you. Like, I'm fine.
My sister
She used to worry about me here when she was on this plane.
Yeah.
So I guarantee she's still worrying about me.
Wow. That's the first time I ever heard somebody complain about somebody talking to them from the other realm. Well, except for Walt with that guy who freaked him out.
Well, I can tell you another story. I can tell you exactly another story. My sister experienced this one. My wife's name is Louise, and we actually have a history of Louises in my family, including a great aunt on my father's side, Aunt Louise, who my sister had some interactions with toward the end of her life, and they weren't really happy interactions. They were actually pretty miserable from my sister's perspective. Anyway, when my Aunt Louise died, she left her silver to my sister. And my sister refused to accept it because she was so mad at Louise, at the way Louise had treated her. Now, the funny part is that when my Louise and I married, PJ, my sister, gave us the silver set, saying, "Look, I'm not going to use it. I don't want to have anything to do with it, but you might as well use it. It's got the letter T monogram on it. That's perfect, So, here you go." So we got the most expensive wedding gift from the person who was least able to give an expensive wedding gift, which was kind of funny. But my sister later told me that she has a lot of psychic phenomena that she experiences, and she had a psychic experience where she was told that there were a number of her spirit guides with her, and one of them was our Aunt Louise, who was described as hiding behind one of the other spirits because she was so embarrassed about the way she had treated PJ in life that she didn't even want to be there, but she felt like she had to be there.
Yeah.
So apparently embarrassment is a factor on the other side.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which I had no idea of.
A lot of spirits have unfinished business, and they have feelings left over from being alive. So yeah, that can happen.
Yeah, supposedly in the shamanic world, it's a really big deal about those troubled spirits and how they go into the weakest person in a family chain, and they wreak havoc. They create alcoholism. They create physical illnesses, all kinds of things.
Yep.
Well, all I can tell you is I'm kind of glad that we have a time limit on this because my brain is starting to fry. But this has been really interesting.
You need some bacon.
Actually, I need to go to sleep.
This is your brain on dreams.
This is your brain on dreams.
But I want to thank all the people who asked questions from the group. That was great. Once again, we broke new ground. We went off in a completely new direction talking about sleep and dreams. But it's been fantastic. Thank you to everybody who asked. And Alex and Tom, thank you guys very much for all your contributions to this.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah,
Thanks
really,
for
really
hosting
good stuff.
us. Thank you.
All right. And we'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Wow.